Hi everyone, this is audapostrophe. Let's continue our game of Fatal 12 on Nintendo Switch.
でもね、あんたのことは昔から知っていたのよ。ウィリアム・リュウという男を知っているかしら？
知らないな。
そうだと思ったわ。ウィリアム、ビルはあなたの会社とも取引がある広告会社の営業担当よ。あなたとも会ったことがあると言っていたけれど、どうやら社長様は取るに足らない下請け業者のことなんて覚えていないようね。
The more the woman spoke, the less Alan cared to be bothered. He was never very good with these types, the ones who gradually drifted off topic the longer they spoke. Were she a regular businesswoman, she would have been long gone.
私はそのビルの婚約者よ。
要件を早く話してくれないか、ミセスちゃん。
あれ？どうして私の名前をあんたが知ってるのよ。
君はわざわざ僕の会社に電話をしてきただろう。偽名を使ったようだが、せめて非通知でかけてくるべきだったな。
はい？
After he said that, Alan took out a single card. Chan was quite familiar with the card's design. 6. Name, Chan-chan. She wasn't aware of the significance behind the numeral yet, but it was clear that her own name was written on it.
新しくカードが生まれる瞬間を僕はすでに目撃している。
ちょっとそんなのずるくない？個人情報とかどうなってんのよ。
Alan remained silent in the face of her panic. He was aware that nothing would come from interacting with her as if things were normal.
でも名前でしょ？私なんてありふれた名前だし、どうせすぐにバレちゃうよ。そんなことより、
ちゃんちゃん、貴様の死因は転落死だな。
嘘！どうしてあんたが知ってんのよ。
It was simple, really. 6. Cause of death. Fell to their death. He was unable to determine who the card belonged to at the time, as he had yet to meet anyone else in the Court of Fate. However, he soon realized that each participant had an identifying numeral after he came to possess Chan's name card. He had anticipated this by nature of his personal cards containing the numeral 11, or 12, but with this he was able to confirm it. Once he knew that Chan was numeral 6, he was able to link her cause of death and name.
私もしかして大事なこと言っちゃってた？
Her carelessness was a source of irritation for Alan.
使命を軽んじているならば、その考えは改めた方がいい。ただし、来世ではな。
Alan was already an atheist, but the teaching of his parents seemed to carry a lingering influence on him.
何よ。あんたはまだ私の未練を分かっていないはず。それに
婚前旅行というのか。ただの旅行なのか知らないが、貴様はウィリアムと登山を楽しんでいた。登山といえど本格的なものではなく、ほとんどピクニック。しかし貴様たちは好奇心に負け、ルートを外れて崖の方へと向かった。そちらの方が景色がいいと思ったようだな。
あんたなんで知ってんのよ。まさかストーカー？やだ。あんた顔は悪くないと思うけどネクラっぽいから無理。そもそも私はビル一筋なんだから。
おそらくこの転落死というのは、その時に足を滑らせたか何かだろうな。わざわざ立ち入り禁止の場所へ行ってその結末というのはうっ
さいわね。っていうか早くなんで私のことをそんなに知ってるのか教えなさいよ。
心当たりがないのか、動転して見失っているのか。
Alan made sure to gather as much information on Chan as he could the moment he learned her name. He wasn't entirely convinced that divine selection was real, but the creation of the cards and the existence of a card book that removed all language barriers convinced him not to deny it outright. Information provided one with the upper hand when negotiating. That was the conclusion Alan had reached. It was why he did everything he could to gather information not only on her, but her fiancé William as well, though he wouldn't admit to such a thing. Half of what he told her was information she herself had made public via rampant social media posts and updates. While the result of her fall had clearly been undone, it wasn't difficult for him to put the pieces together based on the information he had at hand.
いいわ。もう遊びは終わりにしましょう。
Chan wiped the sweat from her brow before whipping out a knife. It was a butcher's knife, around 20 centimeters in length. Her intent with it was clear as day.
私は生き残りたいのよ。ビルとの新婚生活が待ってるんだから。
She raised the knife before dashing towards Alan. A mere 5 meters separated them. She would reach him at her speed in an instant. Chan was confident in her speed thanks to her having played tennis since childhood. What's more, Alan was the stereotypical rich boy. He had no means to defend himself, or so she thought.
女神の選定の参加者は死なないと女神から聞いていないのか。
Alan dodged her with ease before twisting her wrist and stealing the knife from her grasp. He kept hold of her wrist, however, and brought the knife to rest against her neck.
あれ、なんでこんな状況？ちょっと待とうよ。
信じていないというところか。もっともこの点に関しては僕も試していないから信じてはいない。
私やばくない？だってさ、それで首の血管を切られたら私死ぬよ。あんた人殺しになっちゃうよ。
Alan could hardly believe the words coming out of this woman's mouth after her own attempt to stab him. He knew that there would be no point in calling her out for it, however.
試してみるか。
嫌だよ。助けて。
Disastrous hardly began to describe what transpired next. Just as Chan screamed, William leapt out of hiding. He attempted to jump Alan, but Alan used Chan as a human shield. William could make no move in that situation, so Alan threw the knife away and pushed Chan towards him. They both fell over as she slammed into him, causing Alan to look down on them both.
ミスター・ウィリアム、今晩は最後の時を過ごすことだな。
Saying that, he took out a third card. 6. Regret. Newlywed life.
私のミル。
12人の中で君が最も愚かな参加者であろうな。
Alan had lost all interest in Chan by that point. He picked up the knife and tossed it back to them. The last thing he wanted was to raise suspicion by carrying it around when he'd only just arrived in Japan. Neither Chan nor William saw this as an opportunity either. Their instinctual fear of him had taken over. Not even a gun would make them feel as though they stood on equal footing with him. Alan had no interest in what they did following that event.
この倉庫は使えるな。
Not only was it abandoned, but no one else seemed to be squatting there either. It's neither too close nor too far from the city. Should everything check out over the next few days, he would use it as his base of operations.
今ならあの必死さだけは理解できなくもない。
Alan lets his thoughts slip out as he stares at the hotel room ceiling. Two hours after I begin reading, I've made it through another fifth of the diary, I guess. While the diary of a girl living through the end of the Meiji period is interesting in its own right, the structure is inherently different from a novel. That makes the process of reading it pretty tiring. I did come across an interesting tidbit, albeit one unrelated to Divine Selection.
リンダさんたちも黒猫を飼ってたんだな。
It had a leisurely attitude and seemed to be more attached to Diana than Linda. It would appear and disappear when it saw fit. By the sounds of it, it could have been Lette's great-great-grandcat. They called the cat Leo, which is pretty similar to Lette. One diary entry was about how it once stepped on a piece of broken glass, leaving a scar on the paw of its front right leg. Speak of the devil, it's Lette.
あんたもガラスには気をつけてね。実は踏んじゃってたりしないよね。
I tried to approach, but Lette runs off. Must have sensed something annoying was about to happen. I assumed it's fine if it can still sprint like that. Following that, I close the diary and head back to my room. Once in bed, I start to think about what I should do from here on out. Let's put things into perspective. I have three main concerns at the moment. First and most important, finding a means for both Miharu and me to survive. I've yet to reach a conclusion, but I'm sure that figuring out the mysteries behind divine selection itself isn't the right approach. I can't say for sure whether or not I've made any progress until I've finished reading Linda's diary. The second concern is gathering information on Alan. This is a difficult one as well, especially when I don't understand his goal. I know for a fact that he holds no hostility towards me, but I hardly think he's willing to let me eliminate him just because of that. That's why I need to discuss things with him. I have no way to contact him, but something tells me that he'll come to see me soon. My third and final concern is Federico. I know both his name and cause of death, but have nothing to go on for his regret. I've never talked to him in person, so that makes things even more difficult. Just then, I received a text message. It's from Miharu. I've gathered all of Federico's information. My shift starts later tomorrow, so do you mind if I come to Lion House after school? The message itself is short, but I can't help but be amazed at her perfect timing. I text back, that works for me. I figure I can use that time to talk to her about the diary as well. I haven't hit a dead end quite yet. Forcing myself to believe that, I set my mind on getting some sleep. Miharu and I head to Lion House once classes have ended.
あれ、今日は羊さんはいないのかい？用事があるみたい。必要なことなら明日にでも伝えておくよ。
It's pretty rare for Miharu to ask about Naomi. Divine selection requires us to fight our own fate, so maybe that's changed her perspective on Naomi at some point. There wasn't much to what she said, but I could tell there was a slight difference in her attitude towards her. Anyway, it's just the two of us. Miles probably told her that I'm waiting a bit longer before giving my answer, but even then it still feels a bit awkward to be alone with her. "30 minutes after we arrive at Lion House, Miharu leaves for work. We didn't discuss much, but she told me how she met with Federico Monday night, and how she was able to deduce his regret from what they talked about. It didn't happen right away, but everything fell into place on Tuesday night, which led her to being able to materialize the card. I didn't ask about the card's contents, but I asked her to fill me in later, on the off chance that he'd gather enough information on me as well. He seems to have no intent of electing me, according to her, but it can't hurt to be safe. I made sure to show Miharu the diary, too. Its existence took her by surprise just as much as it did for me. I told her that I'd pass any worthwhile information over to her once I'm done reading it. Just before she left, she offered her thoughts on it.
その日記帳は僕にはどこか切り札のようなものに見える。
There is no basis to her claim, but I happen to agree. After she left, I opened the store up for business.
Ohayo, Mao.
おはよう。はあ、来週から期末とか鬱になりそう。
その話はやめて。
Not to brag, but I haven't studied in the slightest ever since midterms. Midterms weren't much of an issue for me since they happened soon after divine selection began, but the same can't be said for the finals. I actually considered using my card book to cheat my way through the English exam at least, but only total losers cheat. It's a fact that I don't have time to study, though. That's when I received a text message. You're not technically allowed to mess with your phone on campus, but I'll break that rule today. It's from my gran. I heard that finals are coming up. Forget about the store for now and focus on studying. Make sure to send me your results, too.
エスパー？
何々？おばあちゃんから怒られた？
マオまでエスパーしないで。
A mere employee can't ignore their boss's orders. It's impossible to keep the store going without keeping in contact with her, too. Running the store serves as a nice change of pace, so now I'm just depressed. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll keep reading the diary as usual, but I guess I can avoid failing if I use the time I normally would on the store for studying. In the worst case scenario, I'll ignore English and use my card. No. Bad, Rinka. Regular life sure can be difficult. Once school has ended for the day, I return home to study. I put up an announcement about how the store will be officially closed until the week after next. Seems like one of my teachers got in touch with my gran after realizing that I probably wasn't studying this time around. They're aware of my circumstances at home, so I can understand why they'd get in contact. No teacher can ignore a student's poor grades. I'll have to keep on top of studying once divine selection is over as well. Otherwise, I won't be allowed to keep running the store.
ナオミ、そろそろ休憩しない？
ダメです。まだ30分しかやってないじゃないですか。
なんか今日のナオミ厳しい。
すいません。でも先輩がそこまで勉強が苦手だったとは知らなくって。
受験の時は目的があったからよかったんだけど、日々のテストのためっていうとどうしても。
ちょっと意外です。まあでも前に英語の問題を出した時悲惨でしたもんね。
Naomi's doing some considerable damage to my morale today. Not like I can blame her. My upperclassman is acting pretty pathetic.
三春は今日もバイト。女神の選定のことを考えながらいつ勉強してるんだろう。
人それぞれです。先輩、1時間頑張ったら休憩ってことにしませんか？
うん、頑張る。
There's no point in avoiding it, so I decided to stick my head into some books. I used to study with Mao a lot during our first year, but we normally ended up just chatting. In that regard, proper studying with someone like this is a pretty novel experience. I don't want to disappoint Naomi either, so I'll focus for at least the first hour.
さすがです、先輩。じゃあ少し休憩にしましょう。
An hour and a half later, Naomi finally offers me entrance to the oasis known as a break. It was supposed to happen at the 1 hour mark, but I couldn't bring myself to mention it when the time came. Knowing her, she probably didn't want to interrupt me because she thought I was focused. Equally admirable and depressing, considering that that wasn't the case at all. We spend the break talking and snacking. The topic switches to divine selection at some point. I tell her about how Miharu has gathered all of Federico's information and about the diary I found. After mentioning it, I head upstairs to grab it. I place it down right beside my card book. It's almost like a before and after comparison.
これなんだけど。
同じ想定ですね。それも手作りなら私たちが調べても見つからないわけです。それで匂いを嗅いでみてもいいですか？
え？
ちょっとだけなので。触るときに手袋とかいらないんですか？
そこまで気にしてなかったけど、今読んでるしね。
先輩、もっと大事にしましょうよ。それで読み終わったら私も読んでいいですか？
いいけど、私が読み終わったら内容話しちゃうよ。
いいんです。そんな昔の本を読めるだけで幸せなので。
Seeing Naomi this excited is pretty surprising. At the same time, I realize that the diary will be in peril if I leave it here. Back up to my room it goes. She couldn't keep her eyes off it as I took it away, too. Guess it puts just how much she loves books into perspective.
すみません。つい。
あ、いつものナオミだ。よし、じゃあそろそろ勉強再開しよっか。
That said, we settle on another hour of hitting the books. We study until around 8 p.m., taking infrequent but always welcome breaks.
私、そろそろ行きますね。
Naomi starts packing up to leave. She can't stop herself from smiling after learning just how much Rinka dislikes studying. It has no effect on her impression of Rinka, but seeing this side of her has been a nice surprise. To Naomi, the day was endless fun. What's more, a certain desire has continued to blossom within her as the days have gone by. The desire for things to continue like this, for her memories of these days to remain intact. Naomi isn't a participant in divine selection. That's why retaining her memories carries the same value as Rinka and Miharu's survival. There's no end to the burden caused by these feelings of hers.
よかったら明日も一緒に勉強しませんか？
もちろん。明日は 真央と美晴も来るかもね。
Nika gives her answer with a smile. And Naomi responds in kind. After exiting Lionhouse, Naomi spots a nearby man muttering to himself. Shock overcomes her the moment she sees his face.
何？しばらく休みだと。
It's Alan Scorpion, numeral 12 in Divine Selection, one of the 4 remaining participants. Naomi has seen him once before, at the hospital, when dealing with Kaiko. Kaiko? The hospital? The name Kamabuchi Kaiko causes her mind to flash back to 2 disparate memories. One involves Naomi collapsing from anemia after paying a visit to the hospital. The other involves going to the hospital with Rinka to approach Kaiko and learn more about her. Following this, she was attacked by Alan, who had the same goal in mind. What's more, the things she's heard from Rinka are mixed into both memories. The confusion causes Naomi to collapse to her knees. She can feel her mind failing to parse which memory is real and which is fake.
君は
Noticing something is amiss, Alan rushes over to her side. He seems to remember her clearly.
大丈夫か？
He cannot comprehend why she cannot comprehend why he's showing concern for her. It might have made sense if he considered her Rinka's underclassman, but the general tone of worry in his voice is confounding. The Alan she is gradually beginning to remember was never this kind. This realization causes her to suffer even more.
先輩が
She somehow fights through the pain to speak. Strangely enough, she doesn't feel that she should keep him away from Lionhouse at all costs. Around 10 minutes after Naomi leaves, someone else pops into the store. An unexpected person in an unexpected situation to boot.
水とベッド。
Alan is carrying Naomi with one arm cradling her neck and the other behind her knees. The surprise fades once I notice that Naomi doesn't seem to be feeling right. This isn't the time to ask questions, so I get some water ready and take her upstairs to my room. The idea of having Alan come into my room isn't all that thrilling, though, so I ask him to wait downstairs. Once I come back down, I notice Alan standing there with a bitter look on his face.
どうだった？
意識はあるけど頭痛がするみたい。頭痛薬とお水を飲ませたから1時間くらい様子を見る。
I make sure to call and let her mom know. I tell her that she's sleeping here at the moment due to her not feeling well.
ありがとうございます。でもどうしてナオミを？
この店の前でいきなり倒れたようだ。目の前で倒れられたら見捨てるわけにはいかない。
親切なことに正直驚いた。ごめんなさい。もっと冷酷な人だと思ってたから。
Perhaps that's not the wisest thing to say to someone who willingly knocks out nurses and eliminates participants without a second thought. But now he's helped both me and Naomi. That's why I feel comfortable enough to speak my thoughts.
やっと話してくれるんだね。
The fact that he's here means he has business with me. I expected him to come, though I didn't think it'd be this early. I assumed it would be either Saturday or Sunday.
ああ、君は何度も僕の行動を不可解だと思ったことだろう。あの日、夜の病院で華奢で無力な君が僕に立ち向かう様を見て、その瞳を見て思ったことがある。君の瞳は僕の妹に似ている。
There's a certain gentleness to his expression as he admits this.
僕には4人の弟と1人の妹がいる。弟たちはまだ小さいが、妹の年はちょうど君と同じくらいだ。妹の名前はアムリタ。僕と違って妹たちは両親から受け継いだ使命を名乗り続けている。
My mind flashes back to something Alan mumbled during his sleep after fighting Odette. Amrita. It is his sister's name.
ちなみに君よりも顔立ちも発育もよく聡明だ。
ちょっと。
だが君たちは根源的に似ている。 誰よりも意志の強い瞳も、感情的になった時の不活さも、弟たちは僕と同じように強く成長するものと確信している。僕は男だ。血のつながりというのは強い。それに男の気持ちはよくわかる。だが心配なのはアムリタだ。あの性格では仕事も結婚も不器用にしかできないだろう。
My card book begins to shine all of a sudden. One card materializes. 12. Regret. Sister's future. Having seen the gentle expression he shows from time to time, I'm not very surprised at the card's contents. If anything, it proves how well I've come to understand Alan.
どうして私に自分の未練を教えたの？
君に生きてほしいと思ったからだ。
だって
構わない。これが僕の結論でもある。だが君にはこれから僕の人生を背負ってもらい、僕たちの物語、終止符を打ってもらおう。
He tells me about his past next. His mother died from illness when he was still a child, while his father was killed due to a grudge involving shady business practices. Alan soon took over his father's business connections, discarding both his name and religion in the process. Even his country's tradition soon became a nuisance to him. He built his own business from scratch and turned it into an undeniable success.
だが僕は会社を大きくする過程で多くを切り捨ててきた。物も人も。恨みを買うという性質は生を捨てたぐらいでは変わらなかった。僕の死因は毒死だ。皮肉にも父と近しい方法で暗殺をされた。
There's no change in his tone as he discusses how he was killed. My card book shines once again, materializing his cause of death card.
殺されただなんて。
君が想像している以上に世の中には不審死というまま処理される暗殺が多い。僕が脱落した場合もおそらく暗殺とは処理されないだろう。
He mentions that he had to deduce his own cause of death after it had been undone. Nobody would know they've been poisoned until after it kicked in, I guess.
僕はずっと君にアムリタの姿を重ねて見ていた。困っている人がいたら放っておけないおせっかいさや流されやすさもあったな。一方で友人のために邁進する気概も持ち合わせている。君のおばあ様がスケールに襲われた時もそうだ。君は彼女たちを救うことしか考えていなかったはずだ。
でも私は私、アランさんの妹じゃない。
無論分かっている。だが根本は同質だ。
There's little I can say when I don't know his sister personally. Alan presses on, unconcerned about how perplexing this whole scenario is for me. My thoughts are likely irrelevant to him. This isn't the logical side of Alan talking. These are his emotions.
僕は会社の人間を信用していない。あらかじめ僕が死んだ際には家族を次の社長に据えるように文書を残していた。つまり年齢的に言って僕の妹アムリタが次の社長だ。心配だったよ。アムリタは優しく脆い。人の悪意と欲望が渦巻く中でうまくやっていけるかとね。
私と同い年で社長に。
ああ、だが君を見ていたら少しだけ安心することができた。自分の弱さを自覚しているけれど無自覚に強い芯を持っている。人の心を動かすことができる。信用できる友を作ることができる。自分の瞳の力を疑うのであれば目の前にいる僕を証拠にすればいい。
His gaze is locked onto me as he speaks. Our eyes may be meeting, but it's not me he's looking at. He's using me as a window to see his sister.
買いかぶりすぎ。それに私はそんな責任持てない。
構わないさ。これは僕の決断だ。もっとも利益を生み出すという意味でアムリタが僕より上を行くことはないだろう。失敗も多くするかもしれない。だが僕とは違った成長を生むはずだ。そして何より僕のように暗殺されることはないだろう。究極的に言えばアムリタが長生きしてくれればそれでいい。
アランさん。
無論まだまだ心配は尽きない。けれどそこに希望を見ることができた。
His expression changes once again to one I've never seen before. Whoa, unbelievable. I never thought he'd have it in him to express such a brilliant smile. His every word and action in relation to his sister shows just how much he cares for her. I have no parents or siblings to speak of, but I can tell this is how those who do feel about them.
何がおかしい？
I don't realize I'm also smiling until he points it out. He's strict, but kind and reliable. He always seemed a bit desperate, despite his intellect. Part of me is envious of Amrita for getting a brother like him. What a weird situation.
なんでもない。
そうか。
Who'd have thought that I'd ever come to think about him like this? Well, guess it's my fault. I never bothered to try and understand him after what happened at the hospital that day. But he'd always been kind to me after that. At Shiketsuku's home, when he helped me stop you, and even when he saved my gran. I'm at fault for never seeing him for who he really is.
私の生き方がどこまで通用するのか見届けるんじゃなかったの？
言っただろう。君の生き方が通用した結果が今の僕だと。
Alan pauses briefly before posing a question.
見張るヘビナタとの決着はどうするつもりだ？
His question takes me by surprise. Well, not the question itself, but the realization that he truly does understand me. There's no reason for me to hesitate, though. I only have one answer to give.
生き残る。二人で。
ああ、いい答えだ。アムリタも獅子舞凛花ならそう答えるはずだから。
私の入れるコーヒー美味しいんです。最後に飲んでいきませんか？
ああ、いただこう。
It is supposed to be a simple offer, but my wording may have given it more weight than intended. I doubt Alan fails to catch it either.
ちょっとだけ待っていてくださいね。
I'm going to make this the best coffee I've ever brewed. No words are exchanged as he drinks his coffee. It's not an awkward silence or anything. Words simply aren't needed. Our relationship doesn't extend beyond our status as participants in divine selection. We're not friends. We're not lovers. We're not enemies. We're not even siblings. But that's why this works.
ごちそうさま。僕はコーヒーがあまり好きではないが、美味しいと思ったよ。
ありがとう。
He pauses, stands, and then continues.
そろそろ君の後輩の様子を見に行った方がいい。
うん、そのつもり。
君は何人もの人生を託されてきたのだろう。それでも強く生きたいと望むのは君にしかできないことだ。
私は一人じゃないから、重荷じゃなくて力に変わった。
肉体において人間は常に一人だ。だからこそ一人ではないと信じられることが君の強さなのだな。
アランさんだってずっと一人じゃなかったはずでしょ、お兄ちゃん。
冗談はよしてくれ。言ったはずだ。アムリタは君よりも才気間髪で器量も良いと。何より僕は君の生き方を認めるまでアムリタを信じてやれなかった。その意味で 僕はやはり一人だった。君に頼みがある。
はい。
僕は日本へ来るとき、僕のルーツに関わるあらゆるものを置いてきた。だから君に預けられるものは何もない。しかし刻んでくれ。君の人生の奇跡に僕を。
アムリタさんに会いには行かないんですか？
君には関係のないことだ。君は獅子舞凛花だろ。
I give Alan an understanding nod in response. I'm certain I would have hesitated to elect him had he given me a proper answer, regardless of what it was. He's made sure to put a wall between us. I understand why, though. That's his way of making things easier on both of us. His objective accomplished, he takes his leave. My eyes remain locked on him, even as he fades into the darkness outside. It's because I know this is the last time I'll ever see Alan Scorpion in the real world. Not long after he leaves, Naomi comes downstairs.
ナオミ、具合は大丈夫？
はい、心配かけてすみません。大丈夫です。それよりごめんなさい。
She pauses before pulling her eyes away from me.
聞いちゃいました。アラン・スコーピオンさんと話していたこと。私、勘違いしてました。お礼も言わなきゃいけないのに。もう。
大丈夫。
It's all I can think to say to her.
彼は、ミハル先輩がフェデリーコ・カルミナーティさんの情報を揃えていることに気がついていたんでしょうか。次の選定で先輩とミハル先輩と2人が残るようにするために。
そうだね、きっと。
彼が脱落したら私は忘れちゃうんですね。今日助けてもらったことも、やっと知った彼の優しいところも。
だから私が刻むんだ、彼のことを心に。
そしたら必ず教えてください。私が忘れてしまっているはずのことを。
もちろん。だって私一人じゃ背負いきれないから。
Naomi grips my hand tightly in hers. Her memories take a considerable blow since she's helping me despite not being a participant. Though that makes me question why the system that rewrites people's memories is so flawed. If Parsha's the one who made it, then I want to lodge a complaint. It's far too cruel. There's more to life than the beat of one's heart. It's our experiences that make us who we are. That's why changing or making people forget those experiences is just as bad as outright killing them.
私、まだ具合が悪いみたいです。だから、今日は止めてもらえませんか？
うん、いいよ。ただ、お母さんにはちゃんと連絡しておきなね。
She's obviously faking it. Not like it matters to me, though. If anything, I don't want to spend the night alone. Saturday, 2 days later. Yesterday passed without issue. The four of us studied together after school, and then I did my usual diary reading at night. I told Miharu about Alan, too. Looks like I'll be electing him, while she'll be electing Federico. On a superficial level, things have gone far smoother than they have in weeks past. There weren't any huge incidents like with you, nor was there any need to make deals with people like Odette. Things aren't so simple deep down, though. The significance of the upcoming eliminations is all the greater now that we've gotten to know and see their development. There's no point in being depressed until the time comes, though. Instead, I try to brighten my mood before heading to school. Upon my arrival, Mao greets me with an eerie grin.
おはよう、リータ。今日は何の日かわかるかな？
え、7月7日だから、そっか、七夕だね。
正解。食堂の方に笹があるから短冊飾りに行こう。
ちょっと恥ずかしいけどいいよ。真央が学校のそういうのに興味持つって珍しいね。
別に気分だよ、気分。ミハルもだからね。
凛花が書くなら僕も書くよ。
決定。じゃ、ナオリンにも連絡しとこう。
There must have been a Tanabata feature on TV or something. That aside, it's revealing to see Mao act like this. Well, it'd probably be a relief if she was in her post-all-nighter mode as well. Once we've written and hung our wishes up, we start to make our way to class. The faculty set bamboo up in the cafeteria that's shared between our and the college campus, just like Mao said. A surprising number of people are participating, which leads me to taking a peek at some wishes. Most are relationship-related.
いやー、みんな何を書いたのかな。
秘密にするって約束だったでしょ。
We make it a point to keep what we've written to ourselves. For a simple reason, too. We're shy.
羊さん、恋ではないにしても君は僕の短冊を見た。もしそれを誰かに話したらどうなるか分かっているね。
ごめんなさい。私言いません。お、ナオリン、ミハルのお願い事見ちゃったんだ。ほれほれ、マオ様だけに教えてみなさい。マオ先輩でも無理です。
Miharu gives Naomi an exaggerated glare before transitioning into a smile. As for me, well, I guess there's no point in reminding myself of something I wrote.
もういくつか寝ると夏休みだね。
ああ、そうだね。2桁をいくつかというには多い気もするけれど。
ピーターは覚えてる？花火大会。ちょうど来月の今頃じゃなかった？
うん。
行こうね、4人でさ。
There's a hint of gravity to her words. It's not often she sounds like that, so it leaves the rest of us speechless. Naomi ends up breaking the silence.
はい、行きましょう。私、花火大好きです。
Miharu and I nod in agreement.
じゃ、ナオリンは朝一で場所取りだね。頑張ります。
みんなで一緒にね。行こう。
凛花がそういうのなら僕も。
My reluctance to say it in the first place is why I forced myself to make that claim. It's a much more personal wish than what I wrote earlier, but also a more earnest one. Once the day is over, I get ready for bed. As for the diary, I'm almost done with it in terms of pages. Tomorrow's session should be my last. I couldn't find a second volume after looking around, so tomorrow marks the last look into the diary, into the daily lives of Linda and Diana. When I think about that, I recall what we talked about earlier on in the afternoon.
花火か。
I talked to Miharu about it before, back when we were alone at the theme park, back when I was the only one who didn't know anything about divine selection. Oh no. A flood of memories come back to me all at once. I must be tired. I feel my eyes begin to water up as my emotions involuntarily pour out.
行きたいよ。
My thoughts turn to screams, and then I remember that it's the middle of the night, so I end up smothering my face with a pillow. It helps to muffle my screams. It's all so sudden. The fear of losing what I have at the moment has just hit me out of nowhere. I don't want anything up until now to be undone. I fall asleep at some point, unable to sort out my emotions. Federico returns to Japan from India on Sunday morning. Once in India, he visited both Alan's company and his family. According to his company, Alan was out on private business that wasn't supposed to be divulged to anyone. As a result, he kept all contact with the company to a minimum. In exchange, the vice president was in charge of all important decisions for the time being. This led to Federico's discovery of an anti-Alan faction within the said company, not to mention their connection to a certain competing company. Putting two and two together with what Miharu had told him, he was able to deduce the background behind Alan's death and materialize the card. The big issue was with learning his regret, since no one there had any valuable information related to it. His visit to Alan's home proved to be entirely meaningless too.
まさかあんな奴がいるとは。
Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is Audapostrophe. You've been watching Fatal 12 on Nintendo Switch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.